but that one was really complicated to play, and most people didn't want to, you
Let
know.
me guess. It went into something like mechs and stuff.
No, you were in space, and it had like spaceships, and it was like a lot. It was more complicated, and most kids, like you're talking about kids that are like 6 or 7 years old. They don't want to. They don't
I
want
was
to do
gonna
that.
say third
No, not
graders
six
at
or
best,
seven.
but
Not
yeah.
6 or 7. Like no, third graders are like 9, 8, 9. Um, I was. It was. You were looking like fourth graders, and fourth graders don't want to play something that complicated unless they're really invested in it. But with that,
Yeah.
but without much ado, we're here. It's the penultimate episode of the year. We'll not be streaming the 25th because that's Christmas, and I might
We
have a uh, a pre-made video come out on my channel on the 25th, but I'm not actually recording anything on the 25th or doing casting or anything. The penultimate episode of the channel. The last episode of the year will be Wednesday of next week, a week from today, which will be the 29th, which will be the ultimate episode of 2021 for the BS Busters cast. You won't see us again until New Year's. I don't
Yep.
think. Happy New Year. Sorry, Merry New Year. I stole that from Trading Places. It stars Eddie Murphy. It's a great film. So before we go any further, let's have everyone introduce themselves. I'll get into what our topics are going to be for tonight, and then we'll dive into it.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all you just be a special midweek podcast. I am Joe Riley, I'm a star, and if you're wondering what we were talking about, it was about um Heroes Quest.
All right, Kanoshi.
It's Kanoshi Abominita here. Glad to be here.
Yep. Penultimate episode of the year. So, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. We have some good topics. We were going to cover spoilers on Spider-Man: No Way Home, but no one's seen it yet except for me. So, um,
I could I could at least say this much. He could at least spoil it next week.
yeah, I'm gonna spoil it next week. But here's what I will say. This is non-spoilers. Here's what I'll say. For every generation Spider-Man that kind of got them into the cinematic version of Spider-Man for all of us, whether you're like an old man like me and you grew up with Tobey Maguire, or you're one of the people who, Andrew Garfield was your man, or this new Spider-Man, Tom Holland, or as I like to call him, Spider-Boy. Spider-Boy. You like Spider-Boy? Well, folks, everyone gets their time to shine, and this film cements that the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man, like the current MCU Spider-Man, may be the worst Spider-Man of all time. I don't mean in terms of like badly acted. I mean like not only are you a failure, but you really suck,
I was
dude.
gonna I was gonna make the joke. He would be the equivalent to the Hulk.
No. Well, actually, yeah, because every iteration of the Hulk that we've had has gotten progressively weaker and more pathetic. Like the Hulk in the Ang Lee film, the film's not great, but that Hulk is the closest you're going to get to the comic book level of Hulk's power on the silver screen. And then the Edward Norton's Hulk film is like a weaker version of the Hulk. And then the Hulk in the MCU is just like his power level is all over the place. Like shit that the Hulk can do in the comics, this Hulk is like,
I was
I
gonna make
can't do it.
I was gonna say, and that's before the end game stuff.
Well, his power level, the strongest you're going to see the Hulk in the MCU is in that first Avengers movie, where he punches out the
That
Chitauri battle cruiser. That's the
that's
strongest
my thought.
he's in that. He gets weaker. He gets weaker in every single showing of the MCU after that point. Like where he basically loses a fight to Banner and to Tony Stark in his Hulkbuster outfit. I'm like, I'm a Hulk fan. I have read the comics extensively. I have two versions of the Hulk encyclopedia, which has all of the information. The Hulk has never lost to one of Tony Stark's Hulkbusters. Want to know why?
Let
Because
me
the
guess.
Hulkbuster's a machine. It has an upper limit. The Hulk has no upper
Has
limit.
no limit.
Except for the Marvel Cinematic Universe Hulk, who, it's just at a certain point, he's just not strong enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
The
mean,
only
they had to
reason
nerf. No, go ahead, Joel.
I was gonna say the only reason I think they could even make it so nerfing is because of either using some kind of a wombo combo of weird things and events that could really suppress the Hulk. And that's the only way I could think of that he even be that weak in the first place.
Well, they had to nerf the character because the Hulk breaks the Marvel universe. Like the Hulk is too powerful.
Yeah, which means that they had to aim it towards more Bruce Banner than the Hulk himself.
So they had to do it. But
Yeah.
anyway, so basically, Spider-Man: No Way Home, great film. It's not perfect, but if you are a Spider-Man fan, if you are like me and you grew up watching the Raimi trilogy, and you were like, I like the first two films, the third film kinda.
Was weak sauce.
Well, I'll say this much: the first half of the third film is actually pretty good. The second half, when they introduce Venom, it starts to go downhill.
Funny enough, I saw a video saying that Spider-Man 3 that featured Venom, it was a train wreck of a mess. But
Oh
it was a
yeah,
mess that actually sold.
oh yeah. The behind the scenes behind that movie, because Sam Raimi initially didn't want to have Venom in that film. He wanted to have the Vulture, which would have made a lot more
Oh,
sense.
man.
He just wanted to have the Vulture. Who you thought the Vulture was? Sandman?
No, I thought that he would want Sandman for a more climactic feeling because there's technology that actually makes Sandman look good.
Well, I mean, Sandman kind of always did kind of look good. Even like a lot of those special effects, kind of did look good in the third Spider-Man movie. But what really, like, the third Spider-Man movie is good up to where Peter Parker, um,
It's
the,
the black suit.
yeah, the black suit and his personality changes when it goes downhill. Like
It's
really,
funny that I actually recognize when you and I were talking about Venom.
yeah, that was when it kind of went downhill. The sad thing is, like, because really, if you're gonna do a black symbiote Spider-Man, your best bet would be an entire film just dedicated to
Yeah, and
Spider-Man fighting his darker impulses,
it's funny that they actually were trying to think of a way to make it so it could be a two-parter.
which would have been better. It would have been better if that film had been two parts, because, like I said, the first half of the film, like the drama that he has, where he's like, I want to propose to MJ, and I want to use Aunt May's ring that my uncle Ben proposed to her with to propose to MJ. Who MJ has always been one of the weaker parts of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Because in the first film, she's kind of friend zoning the shit out of Peter Parker. In the second film, she's kind of equally annoying. And in the third film, she's straight up like Peter Parker's, like, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man finally has his shit together. Like he's good at being Spider-Man. His life is together. His career is going up. Her career is going to shit. And she's like, man, the critics didn't like my film and they booed me. He's like, yeah, I remember when the whole fucking city of New York hated me, and I can empathize. She's like, no, we're talking about me right now. Like, bitch, like she's the weakest part of that third movie. But
I could agree with you on that point because seriously, you're comparing yourself of being booed off a stage
yeah,
to being booed by millions of people wanting to hate your guts.
yeah, she like Kirsten Dunst's Mary Jane was kind of the weakest part, but. I mean, still, overall, the trilogy was pretty good. The action was pretty good. Tobey Maguire, I still like Tobey Maguire is still low key like my favorite Spider-Man. Just because, like, he really was like he to me he really showed off like anyone can do a good Spider-Man, but he also did a pretty good Peter Parker. Because Peter Parker's at his best when you realize, like I don't want to feel sorry. Like Peter Parker as a nerd getting picked on, it's like, yeah, you kind of want to punch him in the face too as the audience member. Like he's kind of a dick, you know.
I just have to look at you on that because I honestly was one of the nerds that got threatened.
Yeah, but I mean, it just depends. Like as a character, you want the character. It's kind of like watching Iron Man in Civil War, right? Like there's a point
I
in
was gonna
Civil
say
War. Did we
where
all see
Tony
Civil War
became
here?
a.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say that you're at the point where Tony went from being sensible to being a jerk,
Oh
right?
no. There's a point in Civil War where Captain America and Bucky team up and beat the shit out of Iron Man. And it's like, you know what? You've had this ass whooping coming a long time. You spoiled fucking brat. Now you're gonna get your ass beat. Cause a hero is only as good as their adversaries. Like a hero, there comes a point where a hero needs to get their ass kicked so that they can come back and come back stronger. That's the point of adversity with the hero's journey. Um, so, in Civil War, like they made Tony Stark a much more sympathetic character in this version of Civil War than in the comics. But either way, like everyone says, well, Endgame is where they finally defeated and killed the greatest foe of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everyone's like, it's Thanos. No, the greatest villain of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Iron Man. Because think about it.
I was gonna say Iron Man being a villain is kind of a iffy thing to me because Tony at least tries to fix his messes, but
He
oh
makes it
man,
worse. He make like Tony Stark is the Vegeta of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Think about it. Okay, the film that set off the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Iron Man. How did Tony get fucked? Tony was
I was gonna say
outselling Tony was outselling weapons to the U.S. Army. He got
and he
kidnapped,
got himself
and he
hurt.
got his
So
heart fucked up.
yes,
Why? With Stark weaponry that he sold that got put into the hands of terrorists by the Ten Rings organization. Okay, his own company's weapons used against him to fuck him up. Okay, so that's the first one. He already from the start, Tony is the biggest villain. Because think about all the other fucked up shit that happens in the cinematic universe that is connected to Stark.
I was
Iron
gonna
Man
say
2. Iron Man 2. At the end of Iron Man 1, Tony Stark tells the world, I am Iron Man. Okay? Then at the
yeah,
start of
that's
Iron
the
Man
bolt
2,
on his back.
at the end of Iron Man 2, he fucking goes around taunting.
He sold his stuff.
He taunts people. He taunts villains. Come after me, bro. I'm Iron Man. What you gonna do?
And of
Well,
course, we all know what happens when you use a taunt. They're gonna do something about that taunt.
someone's gonna answer the taunt. And Whiplash and Justin Hammer fuck him up. Okay, so that's the second film. The third film, which I think is one of the weakest Iron Man films. I don't think Iron Man 3 is
He
very
sold
good.
one of his own items.
The main villain is actually it's Extremis. Iron Man 3 is kind of weird, but they call the guy the Mandarin. But it's Seth Killian. Seth Killian, the only reason Seth Killian is doing all this is because Tony Stark bought his company to save it from going bankrupt, but he was a dick about it. And Seth Killian's like, I'm going to kill you, Tony. So his own enemy was created by his own bad choices. I mean,
Yes.
but wait,
And
it gets worse. Iron Man, the first Avengers film, Iron Man fucking instead of putting the Tesseract away, he fucking leaves it out, and it starts all that shit with the Chitauri invasion and Loki. The second film with the
his
fucking
creation.
is
Ultron.
fucking Ultron, which he helps create. He creates the problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I said, I at least appreciate Tony trying to clean up his messes, But oh man, he gets his
Yeah,
messes.
I mean, I keep on saying this. The greatest look, Endgame ended the greatest threat that the MCU has ever faced. Tony Stark. They finally,
Yeah.
this guy who keeps on, like, every time Tony Stark sneezes, wipes his ass, or trips, a super villain in the MCU was created.
I at least try to not punch at Tony like that. At least unless you're talking about Civil War, then I could punch him in
It's
the face for
true.
that.
It's true. It's totally true. That's why in
I
Civil
know.
War, where he got his ass kicked, I'm like, good. This is the ass whooping his parents. Unfortunately, his parents were dead. They couldn't give him this ass whooping. But Cap's from the 1930s. Hey, look, back in his day, if you fucked up, your daddy took you to the woodshed and beat your ass. Him and Bucky gave him that ass whooping he needed years ago.
I was saying that Tony at least tries to fix his mistakes, but the only time I would not feel sorry for him about that is in Civil War.
Nah, he got that ass whooping and it was coming. And then he just makes it worse. It's like everyone who loves Tom Holland, why the fuck in Civil War, he gets a 16-year-old kid from Brooklyn involved with superpowered people fighting. Why the fuck would you do that?
I was gonna say, did the 16-year-old at least have something to work with?
I mean, he was bitten by a radioactive spider, but I mean, he's still a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's a superpowered 16-year-old kid. It's a 16-year-old fucking kid. You don't get them involved. Like, even Professor X wouldn't do some shit like that. And Professor X is a terrible teacher.
I was gonna say, thank you for comparing that moment.
It's like, seriously, you put a 16-year-old in the middle of a fight with superpowered people. Are you fucking insane?
I was gonna say,
But it's Tony Stark,
yeah,
so, you know.
yeah, the only time I would not feel sorry for Tony Stark and say that he's at least trying to fix his messes is in Civil War.
All I'm saying is this. Every single problem with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, almost, I would say 90% of the mega villains
In the MCU,
in the MCU have some connection to Tony Stark. Whether on purpose or just inadvertent. It's like there's too many connections to you for me to say that you aren't a problem. Because the common denominator is Tony Stark.
yeah,
It's too much. But anyway, there's a reason people I hate Stark and he has to die. And I was like, no, I don't say that about Tony. And then the longer the series went on, I'm like, yeah, this guy, fuck him. He's a dick. But anyway.
yeah.
But anyway.
Boy.
Yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, good film. If you guys get a chance, go watch it. I saw it at the Alamo Cinema Draft House. It was great. It has something for everybody. It's really good. The twist at the end is great. That's it. We'll do the spoiler review of it next week on the 29th, which will be our last episode of the year. But let's get to the rest of these topics. So the big thing is that we're covering news topics of the week. No bad news because I just didn't feel like covering it.
Hey, if anything, we could shove that into the next year.
No, I'm trying not to talk about any bad news this year. But anyway, so here's some good news. Mass Effect 4 is confirmed to be using Unreal Engine 5.
That's good. I'm not gonna use
that shitty Frostbite engine.
Yeah.
I was about to say, how many game companies were ruined by Frostbite?
I mean, I'm not gonna say companies, but I know a ton of games were ruined by Frostbite. I mean, the reason the next Battlefield 2042 is having the issues it's having is because it is using Frostbite. Like, Frostbite was a sucker's bet for EA. Because what EA was thinking on the this, like, the Frostbite engine being their universal engine for all their games seemed like a good idea to people who were looking at the bottom line and not looking at why those numbers mattered. It's like, well, it'll be cheaper for us to just use our own engine. But what they didn't understand is that, like, there is no catch-all engine. Like, the closest you're going to get is
Unity?
Unity. And even Unity has issues.
I'm actually surprised I got that right. And also, Unity is in a lot of things, at least as far as I recognize.
I'm just saying, like, Unity is the closest you're going to get to a catch-all engine, and Unity has issues. So, the next Mass Effect game, tentatively dubbed Mass Effect 4, has been confirmed to be using the Unreal Engine, which means that it should have the feel of the other Mass Effect games, because Mass Effect Andromeda used the Frostbite engine, and that game just, like, the people were like, man, the combat feels great. Who the fuck ever played any of the original Mass Effect trilogy games and said, man, this combat is great? People talked about the choices they made, the characters they romanced, how they managed to clear certain missions and got different outcomes. No one was like, man, when I shot that guy in the head, no one said that. No one fucking said that. Because people don't play Mass Effect for the combat.
If I remember right, that's more the RPG talking right there.
People like, people for Mass Effect. Mass Effect is all about your choices and how those choices lead to branching consequences and stuff like that. Mass Effect Andromeda. That's where Mass Effect Andromeda kind of went backwards, because none of the choices you made in Mass Effect Andromeda really changed anything. So, I don't know. But that's my opinion. Next little bit of news. Sony has finally been forced to respond after a massive indie backlash. Because basically, the issue is that Sony, depending on who you ask, Kenosha, your background noise is overtaking the cast.
Oh boy.
Okay, I'm gonna
Um.
lower your volume.
Okay. I was about to say that Sony had to respond to the indies after what happened.
Well, basically,
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So basically, what happened is this: Sony was fighting this massive. As you guys know, Sony's online, their PSN is kind of trash. And so basically, indies finally had enough, and they were like, "Look, we keep on telling people that we're having issues getting our games on their storefront, having our games where people can see them on their storefront." And like a lot of indies thought it was because that the bigger third party companies are basically paying to have
For
better
more ad space.
advertisement. Yeah, to having more exposure on the PSN. Now, personally, I do think that's a part of it. I also think a part of it is also that Sony's
Priorities.
well, their infrastructure for their online is draconian. Like, it's a step above Nintendo's in terms of how easy it is for or how Nintendo's used to be, because there used to be a time when Nintendo's online was like during the Wii era, where apparently it was hard for indies to get their games on there, and like the restrictions and stuff. Like, you had to have an office and a business card and all this shit in order to register your stuff. It's not like that anymore, but it used to be like that. But Sony's shit is like that. Like, there's a lot of hoops that the people have to jump through, and the online infrastructure on the back end, like the actual nitty gritty, specifics, is really hard. That's why Sony's online is down every 6 months or so. It's like, oh, it must be that time of year. Sony's online is down.
And that's why, they used to be, they used to put indies at they put a high regard for indies until, their consoles started doing better, and and they started getting more AAA third party stuff.
It was the 8th gen.
Yeah.
When Microsoft pulled out a gun and shot themselves in the crotch,
Yeah.
and third parties started abandoning the Xbox One and jumping on to Sony, Sony was like, oh, well, we don't need indies. And so basically, and plus Sony has, like, here's what people need to understand about Sony. Sony needs the PlayStation division to produce revenue that helps them look like they're making a lot of money. But the revenue that's generated by the PlayStation division is not enough for them to do the things they really need to do. Really, if Sony had the money, they should have overhauled the back end of their online during the 8th gen when they were making all that money. But Sony's like, we can't take that money because we have other stuff we have to pay for. So,
China.
What?
I said China.
I mean, there's other stuff going on. I mean, when you have, okay. Sony has like 12 divisions. The PlayStation division is just one of them. And if 8 of them are in the black, not hugely in the black, but they're not losing money, and 4 of them are hemorrhaging money, then they have to allocate those funds over to other parts so that they can at least stay relatively even. So, it's kind of like having a household, right? If you have like 3 credit cards and 2 of them are paid off and one of them is close to its limit, then you have to prioritize how you pay things off. Yeah, even if you make money, you have to prioritize where you put the money so that you can get things back in
order.
In order. And so Sony, I'm not a Sony fan. I don't think everything they do is right. But as a business, they got to do what they got to do. That means they don't have the money to really overhaul.
Outsource?
Overhaul.
Ah.
They have to overhaul the back end. It's like, I mean, this is the same thing with a lot of these companies. Microsoft's online is pretty good, but Microsoft is a tech company. If their online was trash, that'd be embarrassing. You look at something like Nintendo. Like right now during the Switch, where Nintendo is making tons of money on the Switch, now would be the time to overhaul the back end of their online because they have a lot of money coming in. But they're not going to do it. Actually, the time would have been last gen during the Wii U, because the Wii U wasn't doing that well, and it's not like the servers had a huge burn on them because they had 100 million units sold. But whatever. So that little bit new. So what are your guys' thoughts on it? Sony finally putting things in place so that indies can actually make it easier for them to put their games on the storefront and have them not get lost in a sea of shit.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah,
I agree, because usually when third parties are involved, that kind of dice is always rolling.
I mean,
let's see which faces come up.
I want them to do well. Because I remember the first time I played the first console I owned Guacamelee on was not the Switch. The first console I owned, or the Wii U, the first console I owned Guacamelee on was on PS3.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of indie games that I played and I enjoyed on the PS3, and that was during the 7th gen. So, I want them to get back to where they actually kind of help indies get the come up. But tis what it is. Any other thoughts we have before we move on to the next topic? Yes, no, maybe so?
Let's see where this goes.
All right.
I'm just saying that right now.
Okay. Here we go with the next topic. The GTA Trilogy Remaster that PC owners have been offered a free Rockstar game. Now, the free games are GTA 5, GTA 4, Max Payne 3, LA Noire, and Bully Scholarship Edition, or 55 gold bars for Red Dead Redemption 2's online, or a Great White Shark card in GTA Online.
and there's some odd humor because if I remember right, aren't aren't at least three of those ne- nearly new games?
No, none of these are new games.
I mean, as in recent games like
No.
GTA 5 and Red Dead
I
2.
mean, GTA 5 came out almost 10 years ago.
Ooh boy. Yeah,
I mean,
I
shit.
was I was thinking of what games were as far as I know of the newest as far as the games that they've released so far.
No.
And yeah,
The newest game they released was GTA 5. And maybe LA Noir, but the rest,
yeah,
everything up here is old. Everything up here came out in the seventh gen
yeah. That's what I was wondering about
or earlier.
because the newest thing that they've done
It's GTA
is 10
Five.
years old.
Yeah, well, it's almost 10. Because I think GTA 5 came out, and GTA 5 release date. It came out. Sorry, it came out September 17th, 2013. So that is 9 years
8 years
ago.
old, I
8 years
think.
ago. So 8 years ago. That's still kind of that's the newest game on there. So
Yeah, I was at least saying the newest game that Rockstar released was, was about GTA 5, and that's getting long, a bit older,
I
and
mean,
such.
it's the highest selling third party game ever. So I mean, 155 million units
Yeah,
sold.
if I remember right, those those games all most of those games have gained saturation at this point.
Yeah, that was my issue. Like they're trying to bribe people, but if you're a Rockstar fan, even casual people have a lot of these games. So you're not going to be able to bribe people to buy a really bad port of the three seminal games that made Rockstar what they are with games they probably already own. Like, I have Bully Scholarship Edition. I have LA Noir. I have Max Payne 3. I have GTA 4. I have GTA 5. So, um, why would I, you know, why buy it again?
And the only thing that could even give you something new as far as content wise, or at least variety of usage, would be the shark card and the gold bars.
Yeah, and I mean, do you want to play? I mean, the Red Dead Redemption Online is fundamentally broken. It's not quite as broken as the online for GTA, which it's not really broken. It's just designed to make you spend either grind an extraordinary amount of time for money or spend real world money for fake world money so that you can keep your stuff. Because every 28 minutes in game is a month or a week, and you have to pay your rent. Like it's not very well. It's the in game economy is a joke.
I was gonna make the joke that is the in-game economy as much of a joke as Fallout 76.
It's about at the same level actually in terms of how broken they are. Where like Fallout 76, either you grind in order to no, like it's like Marvel's Avengers. Like how Marvel's Avengers people got mad that Crystal Dynamics basically changed, or not Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal changed the algorithm, the experience gain algorithm, so that it made it more grindy for people to level up their characters and get better loot. Well, that doesn't hold a candle to how bad GTA Online is. Like, in order for you to get a car, now GTA, a game that's about stealing cars, in order for you to get a car, you have to spend a ton of money. Like even a bad car, like a hatchback with bad mileage and doesn't go that fast, very expensive, like $50,000-$60,000 in game. If you buy an apartment, you have to pay rent on your apartment. So every in-game week or day or something like that, like a certain amount of money is deducted from your account. So that is your impetus
and that forces you to do all kinds of things in the game.
in order to make money. Yes, the game is designed. And here's the thing: if you just want to dick around and play with your friends, you're essentially punished if you aren't earning cash in the game. So your choices are: you either just be a bum and not have access to anything, or you play on the role-playing server where I think things are a little bit more lax on the role-playing server, or you just spend real world money to get fake world money so that you can, plop it into your account so that you have a lot of money so that you can just buy stuff. I mean, the game is just like, this is how Rockstar made all this money, because basically it was designed to be a grindy, frustrating mess. Sadly,
Yeah.
And I say this, like, there's a reason that I played GTA Online. I played it for about 2 or 3 months, maxed out my character, and I was like, this is trash. And I stopped playing. I was like, no, I'm good. I don't need to play this anymore. Because I don't enjoy playing this. Like, it's not an enjoyable game to play. For me, I don't know about other people, but when I play GTA, I don't want to play it with other people. You know what I mean?
The GTA Online is a multiplayer experience, while GTA is usually a normal single-player experience.
No, just period. I don't want to play. There's certain games I don't want to play with other people. Like, I don't want to play like a 2D or 3D Mario game with other people. Like, I never like two-player in those games. I want to play by myself. Leave me alone. Let me play the game.
Likely because you're a single child.
That, and there's just certain things. There's some things I don't want to share with other people. Like some experiences you can share with other people. Like, if you're playing Smash Brothers, that is a game that's designed to be shared with other people. If you're playing a kart racer, it's really enjoyable when you play with other people. And, listen, I had an N64, which was the multiplayer console of its time. I know about playing games with other people. But there's other experiences where it's like, I just want to be alone. Sometimes you want to sit in front of a fireplace with a group of your friends, and sometimes you just want to sit in front of a fireplace by yourself. And this is one of those times where it's just, I'd rather be by myself. Playing GTA, But that's my own personal opinion. Speaking of personal opinions and being by yourself, Bravely Default 2 tops 1 million in units shipped worldwide in digital sales. So
that's not bad.
And it only took them 10 months. And the first Bravely Default released for the 3DS, it took them about a year, 18 months to reach that same amount. So
Progress?
Yeah. So I mean, that's not bad for being on two platforms. And I think the vast majority of sales came from the Switch version.
I account to that.
Because, Switch, I mean, it's not like we're getting a ton of JRPGs on the Switch. If you really want the bevy of JRPGs, you got to get them on, ironically, the PC or the PlayStation. So, that's the world we live in, folks. But congratulations on them for having a successful new IP that is like a guaranteed million seller almost every time. So as long as they keep the production value low, which believe me, considering how that game looks on everything, like Bravely Default 2 does look like a 3DS game. Don't A really nice 3DS game, but a 3DS game. So as long as they keep their budget low in the production department, $1 million is not bad. In my humble opinion. That being said, I recently clicked on a link in the same thing that says 8 RPGs still missing on the Switch that drives us nuts. And I think that would be nice to share with you guys.
Oh, this I'm gonna be curious of hearing.
I mean, it's always kind of fun to so here we go.
One of them is Chrono Cross. I'm gonna laugh my rear end off.
Well, let's get started. Number 8, Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is one of the most famous strategy RPGs ever, yet it is only available on mobile devices and PlayStation platforms, and not even current PlayStation platform. I think Square Enix just doesn't give a crap about Final Fantasy Tactics anymore, because every time they remaster that game, they have to pay the guy who originally made it, like, some money. And they're like, we're not giving them any money.
Can they at least do the Advanced series?
Well, they already... Oh, you mean Final Fantasy Tactics Advance? I mean, that'd be cool. Personally, I like Final Fantasy Advance more than the original Final Fantasy Tactics. I think the original Final Fantasy...
Because if anything, the original Final Fantasy Tactics really was uneven to no beep and end to me.
I thought it was just too hard. I thought the difficulty curve, like, some battles were easy, other battles were like, this is darn near impossible. I don't think that's very fun.
That's what I was thinking, because one of the battles I had to deal with, it almost made me break my controller.
Yeah. I thought the difficulty curve of the original Final Fantasy Tactics was a little bit too much, but some people like it. Number 7, Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So,
I'm gonna say this right now. Mass Effect is one of those games that usually would like to not be on Nintendo consoles.
Well, it's from EA, so probably not. I mean, I'll keep it real.
I can at least guess that.
Mass Effect, the Mass Effect trilogy, aside from the third game, they're all... I mean, the first two games are... The first game is a great sci-fi RPG. The second game is a pretty good action game with sci-fi RPG affectations. The third game is kind of like an okay action game. It looks great for what it is, but it's an okay action game. I mean, the only way I could see the Switch really getting this game is if they did a cloud version. Because I don't think the Switch could handle the Legendary Edition. Because I have a pretty good PC, and my PC struggles to run. Well, it doesn't struggle, but it's like I can hear my graphics card and CPU working to run Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And spec-wise, my PC kind of shits on the Switch. So, actually, my PC shits on even the 9th gen consoles, to be honest with you. So, like, I mean, like, in this article, the person says, to that we say, fine, nerf the thing and release it on Switch anyway. People don't buy a Nintendo Switch because it's a beast machine. It's not. They buy it in part for the extraordinary convenience of portable play and would rule to play Mass Effect anywhere at any time. I mean, you got a choice. You can either play a really nerfed version of Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, in which why would you want to? Because the whole point of having the Legendary Edition was having everything be remastered up to a new level of, you want the bright and shiny, nuances and all that shit. Or you can play a cloud version, but then you're kind of stuck with, I have to play this near where there's a good internet connection, a good Wi-Fi internet connection. So it's kind of a catch-22. I mean, I do think Nintendo fans need to play Mass Effect at some point in their lives, especially if all they play are Nintendo titles, because, I mean, there's good shit on other platforms. Cinderblade Chronicles X, number 6.
I could agree with that entirely.
I mean, like, here's the thing. I would
see us being too beastly.
Well, that and the fact that Xenoblade Chronicles X barely ran on the Wii U. Even if you downloaded it and got the extra expansion packs and shit like that, I don't think it would run all that well. Like, and here's the thing: Xenoblade Chronicles X was doing a lot more than Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that game barely runs on the Switch. So I don't see it running well on the Switch. It would be an embarrassment, and I really would rather have them be working on something else. If you want to play Xenoblade Chronicles X, I don't know. Maybe you'll have to emulate it and play it like that, I guess. I don't know. Number 5, Super Mario RPG. I mean, it's probably going to come to the Nintendo expansion pack at some point. Online expansion pack. Or just...
I was going to say, that's a Super NES game.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be in the expansion pack.
I misspoke.
It'd be in the normal section.
I misspoke. It'll come to the Super Nintendo online library, possibly at some point. Although, knowing Square, what they might do is re-release the shit and charge people like $50 for it, because Square is that much of a greedy bastard of a company. Persona 5.
Oh, God. I have to groan because I know people are going to scream, no way is it going to come.
I mean, if it came to the system, it would probably... here's the thing. If they came to the system, they would have to really... it would probably be a port of the PS3 version, not the updated with all the extra shit version that came to the PS4 and the PS5.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're a Nintendo gamer, you're going to get an inferior version of the game. But if you're a Nintendo fan, you should be used to getting inferior versions of ports on your system.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Well, it's true. I mean, look.
I was saying that stings still.
Look, listen. There's certain rules there's certain stuff you just get used to as a Nintendo fan. As a Nintendo fan,
I was saying thank you for reminding me of how much it hurts again.
As a Nintendo fan, you're not gonna get the best port of a game. The last time Nintendo got the best port version of a game on its system was during the 6th gen with the GameCube, where you had like the best versions of games being on the GameCube. Or at least close to, not the worst. But those days are over. Okay? Like, the Switch is all, like, anything ported to the Switch, if it's not a cloud-based version of the game, is going to be a really shit version of that game. Like, trash. Hot buttered trash. And you just got to deal with it. Just like, well, it's going to be trash. Oh, well.
Yeah, as I said, it still stings when you think about it.
I mean, I don't really take it as a sting. It's a reality. If it's a third-party game, it's probably going to be a shoddy-ass port. If it's a port. If it's the cloud, then it's not really portable because you're going to need high-speed internet, a high-speed Wi-Fi connection in order to really play the game.
We can't in either way.
that kind of negates the whole portability aspect. Um, it's reality. That's why I have a PC. It's like, I want to play a really good version of the game that isn't being gimped to run on what is essentially a handheld tablet gaming device. Oh wait, I can do that. So I don't even at this point I don't even get mad about it. I'm like, oh well, I'll just get it on PC because then I don't have to worry about fighting and hoping. Well, maybe they'll optimize it. They ain't gonna optimize it. They're cheap and lazy. They don't want to put the money or the time into making it run well on the Switch, even though that at this point the Switch is the highest install based 9th gen system, but they don't want to. Why put some effort into optimizing something for the highest install base 9th gen system? That's insane. If you can't tell, I'm being facetious. Earthbound.
The class was all way there.
Yeah, we've got Earthbound Beginnings, Mother 1 and Mother 3.
Oh boy, where do we even start with this one? Especially since I heard recent news about the Earthbound series.
Yeah,
I'll save it for later.
I like Earthbound, but the thing is that most people in America, our only real experience with Earthbound is Earthbound 2.
AKA Mother 2.
Sorry, Earthbound, aka Mother 2. Most people don't know anything about Mother 1 or Mother 3. They've heard about Mother 3, but it's like they've never really played it. So, I mean, the fact that Nintendo hasn't really pushed this game, that's just on Nintendo. Like, that's on them. That's them not really pushing this game forward. The most you're gonna get.
I was gonna make this joke that we even got a joke about when Mother 3 would come out, and well, we all saw how it went.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would rather them just make a sequel to Earthbound than do Mother 3. Because I've played Mother 3, I beat Mother 3, and I don't really think it's that great. The story is too dark. Like, it's too dark.
It breaks hearts, right?
It's just too dark. Like, there's a lot of fucked up shit going on in Mother 3, and I'm like, I don't really want to play. I don't want to play an RPG that has graphics that look all cute like that. That is so fucking dark. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, anyway, number 2 is the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster. All of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the only way you can play these games right now, the first 6 Final Fantasy games, if you want to play all 6 of them, is on mobile devices. So a tablet or
some PC.
A smartphone. No, a tablet or a smartphone. You can play the first 5 on Steam, but I mean,
I was gonna groan because if I remember right, some of those iPhone and PC ports were
trash.
Atrocious.
Yeah, they were. I mean, they were fine for smartphones, but then when they first released, the Pixel remasters aren't those initial ports of those games. The Pixel remasters are designed to look like a idealized, smoothed over version of what we had when we were kids with these games. And they actually look okay. There's some content missing.
Oof.
But they look okay. Like, here's the thing. I never really was attached to the first 3 Final Fantasy games, but 4, 5, and 6 are like my favorite games. And what I would have preferred Square Enix to do is to remaster all 6 of those games, charge people. This is a game I'd say charge people $70 for. Take the original 6 games, remaster them in that HD 2D engine from Octopath Traveler, and charge people $70 for it. Because people would pay $70 for an HD 2D remaster of all 6 of those games. But that takes effort and time, and Square Enix is not really big on that these days. But yeah, none of those games are on the Switch. You know, even though you could argue and say that if Final Fantasy 1 through 6 had never been on a Nintendo console, Final Fantasy wouldn't exist today. But hey, they aren't throwing any love on the Switch, bastards.
Yeah. So, what's number 1?
I mean, you know what number 1 is.
Oh no.
Come on, say it with
Please
me.
tell me it's not. Kingdom Hearts.
Oh no, Kingdom Hearts is an RPG.
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you.
There for a moment.
I'll give you a hint. A boy goes to the Millennium Fair and runs into a random girl, and she drops her pendant. Then she steps on a teleporter, and the teleporter energy interacts with her pendant, and instead of her being teleported from one teleporter to another, she's drawn into a hole that takes her to another place and time.
Yeah, I know which one it is. Though, if anything, I almost expected Chrono Cross to be on this one if they were going to be cheesy.
No, it's Chrono
But
Trigger.
it's Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, it's Chrono Trigger. Yeah. I mean, I can understand that. Chrono Trigger is perhaps one of the greatest RPGs of all time, if not the best RPG of all time. That's subjective. I understand that, but to me,
that is one of the most well-known RPGs of all time, and to think it actually the only thing that the newest version of it, as far as I know, is the DS one.
Well, there is a port on PC.
No,
the PC port's actually pretty good. After they fixed it.
Tell me it was not.
No, they fixed it.
On the iOS. That's the thing.
They fixed it. Initially, they just ported over the shitty iOS and smartphone version. Then, when people got mad, they fixed it. But the UI is still not that good.
Yeah, you could at least understand why I was trying to not say the PC version because of what happened earlier.
The shit port? Yeah, I could get it. I mean, why would you do, one of your most iconic games, why would you do such a terrible port of it? But what can I say? But the rest of these games are pretty interesting. We've got Mario and Luigi, the Mario and Luigi series, Lunar, Lufia, Tactics Ogre, which is Tactics Ogre is the sequel to Ogre Battle in the SNES, and it was made by the guy who would go on to create Final Fantasy Tactics. So if you played Final Fantasy Tactics, this is the precursor to that, basically, in terms of gameplay. Golden Sun, Xenosaga, Dragon Age, Live Alive, Grandia, and Breath of Fire, and the Soul Blazer trilogy. If you include action RPGs. It's all pretty good.
Okay.
So, with that being said, let's keep it moving. So, they're reviving Hero Quest.
Oh my stars.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Games Workshop in the UK, which are the people who basically made Warhammer. Yeah, Warhammer. Teamed up with Hasbro back in the day, or was it Milton Bradley? One of the big houses to make Hero Quest. It was Hasbro, sorry, it was Hasbro. And Hero Quest was kind of there to kind of get people into wargaming on a base scale, but it also got people in the D&D because it took place in a low fantasy world where you had a barbarian and a swordsman and a paladin and monsters and wizards and shit. And
and as he said, it was a precursor to D and I mean, it's a gateway to D&D.
Yes, it is.
So, if anything, I think that's fourth edition D&D. So, I'm not sure how that rolls.
I mean, this was before Hero Quest came out, well before fourth edition D&D. But the ideas behind it, like where you had to roll dice in order to determine your attack and your defense and whether or not you were successful in doing certain actions, like all that shit is what made it, a gateway for D&D. Plus the classes and the setting where you're going into dungeons, stuff like that. Now, when I was a kid and I used to be in aftercare, this was like the big game to play. This was the big game to play. Like if you could get Hero Quest, like you had three big games to play in aftercare. You had Hero Quest, you had Don't Break the Ice, and Clue or Mousetrap. Those were the big board games.
I feel sorry for you if you had Mousetrap because, well, some pieces can go missing if it's not put back together properly.
That's true. Really, I never really liked Mousetrap. My third choice was either Clue or Jenga. Clue or Jenga were great. With an honorable mention for Crossfire, just because of that commercial. The Crossfire commercial.
Crossfire.
Yeah. Because that game, the commercial makes it look like these kids are playing in some post-apocalyptic future where all the adults died, and now the kids just play Crossfire. It's like, hey, I found a dead rat. We can make a sandwich with it. Yeah, but we're gonna have to fight it out to see who gets the dead rat. Crossfire? Yeah! Crossfire! It looks kind of terrible, really. But yeah.
I was gonna say, that's cheesy 90s commercialism right there.
Yeah. I mean, we had great cartoons, great commercials when we were kids, like Don't Wake Daddy, Mousetrap, Clue. Heck, even...
What one?
What, Clue?
Yeah, the Clue commercial.
The Clue commercial was the one where they were all animated, and it was like, it was so-and-so in the library with the candelabra, and then it would turn into like it was all animated with like like Mr. Peach, that Colonel Mustard,
Yeah.
like they were animated like cartoons. And they were like, the game of Clue, who did it? It was the butler in the kitchen with the poison, stuff like that. I always liked Clue. Even though, how they portrayed it in the commercial is not how the game is actually played. But whatever. I still enjoyed it. So what are your thoughts on the Hero Quest being revived on a Kickstarter?
I actually approve of it and hope it actually succeeds a good bit beyond its expectation. I mean, if this is from somebody that's wanting to have D&D be still remembered throughout time. So
Okay.
hopefully in a good version.
I mean, I'm glad it's been brought back. They had to license it. A lot of the proprietary enemies that were in there had to be kind of changed. They had to be changed because they don't have the rights to those things. So, like, the fish people became abominations. The Chaos Warriors are called Dread Warriors, etc., and so on and so forth. But I mean, listen. Everyone, like, people get mad when people say they're selling us our nostalgia, they're selling us our childhood. But this is how you do it right. You actually make a quality product. Now, the Kickstarter asked for $1 million. They got 3.7 and some change. So, I'm glad that it's being made. But this is like, here's the thing: the money is nice, but this is going to be expensive because like this set, even though it sold well, never made a lot of money because the plastic was so expensive to make. So that's why Hasbro stopped making it.
I was gonna say the miniatures. There's a lot of them,
Yeah,
and that's before you count the other stuff like dice, the the stat sheets,
yeah. Well,
and more.
that's shit that you're printing, but then you have to worry about like all the other stuff. It was very expensive. So
Yeah, I was thinking of how much should that is a D&D collection right there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, D&D is an expensive hobby. Like D&D, video games, physical book collection. It's an expensive hobby. It's not cheap. That's all I can say. A little bit of
Yeah.
bad news. I know I said no bad news, but a little bit of bad news. Argument over Diablo loot ends in a fatal shooting. Um,
Wait, what?
in Amboy, Washington. Uh, Basically, this guy, 36-year-old dude, was playing um, Diablo 2, and they were playing in a custom server, and apparently they didn't password protect the server, or they thought they did. And so some random person came in and stole the loot.
I'm kind of surprised to hear that.
And then the guy got shot.
And that led to a shooting.
Well, they lived close to each other. They were neighbors. They'd been friends for 26 years, and the guy shot him. The guy fucking shot him. Shot his best friend of 26 years over some bullshit.
Um, excuse me. I think my brain went 404 on me for that moment.
Well, if you click on the link in the chat, you can see the original thing. It's kind of sad. You can make arguments about gun control and how some people you really should not have weapons near you when you're in a agitated emotional state. But whatever. I'm gonna leave it alone. Let's talk about something
I was
good.
I was trying to say that there's things that are not that are way too overpriced in certain games that are not being worth being shot over.
Well, no one should get shot over anything. But it's just kind of sad. All I'm saying is this: people get way too emotional in games, and sometimes that is, well, most of the time that's not a good thing. But anyway, let's keep it moving. You had a topic you want to bring up, which is
Uh,
apparently Nickelodeon is making a Earthbound game.
yes.
I mean, an Earthbound cartoon.
Mo- yeah, an Earthbound cartoon. If I remember, it's called Big Ness.
Big Ness.
Yeah,
Huh.
I may be wrong about that.
Here, let me look
So
it up. Nickelodeon Earthbound cartoon.
yeah,
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon. It's it's probably in production, but it's not going to be released until next year.
Huh.
You see what I was talking about?
Yeah, I didn't see a Ness cartoon. I did see a Big Nate cartoon, but
That's weird, cause I actually was noting that something like Earthbound was coming up.
here, let me look up Nickelodeon Earthbound cartoon. I'll look up Earthbound cartoon.
Yeah. Though I find it a bit of a odd one because I honestly don't know what kind of story we're getting into if that's true.
I mean, it would just follow the. Well, this is from 7 years ago.
Okay.
I don't think this is anything new. I don't. take your word
It's weird
for it.
because I only heard about it recently, so if anything, I might be a little off.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, if they were gonna do an Earthbound animated series, that'd be awesome. It would definitely get people more interested in the IP. I think. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
but if they were gonna do it, my personal
I'd at least hope that they at least not mention the idea of what Gygax would be at the very end of the cartoon. I'm not sure people can handle that.
well, I mean, they never really tell you what Gygas is supposed to be in the game. Like, you just don't
Yeah.
know.
The
It's
thing
meant to
is,
be like something horrific that you don't know what it is, like some Lovecraftian horror that you don't know what it is. Because really, I mean, let's keep it real. The real villain in Earthbound uh, and Mother 3 is Pokey anyway. Sorry, Porky. So
yeah, when you think about it, Porky is the villain of at least Earthbound 2 and 3. Not sure about Earthbound 1.
Earthbound 1, it's someone else. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
not really a terrible game. Anyway, that's my own personal opinion. So anything else you want to say before we move on to the next topic?
Huh. Well, if it ever comes true, I'm actually curious if it will happen. So what you got next on the list?
Our last topic is second to last topic is about Spider-Man. Spider-Mans. So
Do, 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 do. Oh god, now I got a theme song of Spider-Man in my head.
the best Spider-Man. No, I mean, I have to admit the Fox Spider-Man cartoon was pretty good. But this is for people who watch the movie or want to watch the movie and now want to play a Spider-Man video game. So some of these you're gonna get it. So Spider-Man 2000. Now, for those of you who don't know, this was the game that like there was like 4 different versions of the game released and each one was different. So there was one for the PlayStation, there was one for the N64, there's one for the Dreamcast, and one for Windows, and everyone played differently from the other one. I had the one for the N64 and I enjoyed it.
I was gonna say each of them feels different, so I really couldn't say that it's really comparable, but they're interesting games no less.
I mean, that's the one that gave us the terrifying Doc Ock that had been taken over by the Carnage symbiote that chases your ass down at the end, and you have to run your ass away while being chased down by a symbiote controlled Doctor Octopus, and it's like terrifying. It's like, oh shit, run! Like every other boss, you're like, I'm gonna fight this boss. This was the one boss where you're like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Yeah, and if I remember right, Doc Ock has some reach when trying to run from him, right?
Oh yeah. The only thing you can do is run from in that final fight against Doctor Octopus. It's sorry, Doctor Otto Octavius, or Doctor Octopus. It is like, and this game is like the best of all of them. Like you fight all of Spider-Man's major villains. You fight the Lizard. You fight the Scorpion. You fight Venom twice. You fight Mysterio. You fight Carnage, and you run the fuck away from a Carnage symbiote impregnated Dr. Octopus who chases your ass down. It's like, fuck this shit. And it's pretty good. It had a decent array of abilities. Like, you use web-based abilities like web gauntlets to make your attacks hit harder. You could get like flame webbing that did extra damage to symbiotes. You could like, it had different suits that could change up how you played. Like, you could get the black symbiote suit gave you infinite webbing and made you stronger. The Captain Universe suit made you gave you all the powers. It was just a really good. It was like a good Spider-Man game.
Yeah. And also, I was about to say, I thought the symbiotes were sound haters, not fire haters.
No, fire and sonic-based weapons hurt them. Like, sonic-based weapons are their ultimate weakness. Their secondary is like fire, which also hurts. Next, Spider-Man the movie. Now, I never liked this game. I know a lot of people do, but
I was gonna say, when I hear that, my thing is your mileage may vary depending on which movie it is.
What,
As
Spider-Man the
Spider-Man
movie, the
is
game?
based on.
No, I didn't like the
Yeah.
game. I didn't like the Spider-Man the movie, the game, because I thought that the 5th gen game had a lot of limitations. Like, Spider-Man is web slinging in the sky. His webs aren't actually touching anything. And Spider-Man the movie feels like that first game with prettier graphics. Like, they did nothing to make it better. Also, they had different costumes you could wear, but none of them had any special abilities or strengths or weaknesses or anything. It was just, it's just a skin, except for the fact that
right?
the Green Goblin was there and he played completely differently.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was just kind of But a lot of people like that game, so knock yourself out. But then we get to the Spider-Man game to beat. The Spider-Man game that basically every other Spider-Man game has been trying to one-up for years, and none of them have done it. Even, I know people are like, what about Miles Morales and the Spider-Man game on the PS4 and the PS5? Those games are just better versions in terms of graphics and open world of Spider-Man 2. This is the template. This is the house that it built. And no other Spider-Man game has superseded it. Spider-Man 2. This was the game that gave you a massive open world, tons of small things, and made web slinging feel good. And as you web slung around the city, you ran into typical Spider-Man villains like the Rhino, the Lizard, Dr. Octopus. Overall, it was pretty good. I liked it. I'm not saying it was perfect, but I enjoyed the game. What are your thoughts on it?
Mixed, but I kind of say that the Spider-Man 2 is the better one.
I mean, to me, Spider-Man 2 is one of the best Spider-Man games. Not just like 6th gen, just in terms of like getting so many things right. Like the web slinging felt good. The open world, like going around New York City, felt good. It had landmarks from the Spider-Man universe, and it felt good. The voice acting was a little mechanical, but I mean, hell, you can't have everything.
I was gonna say VA is always a hit and miss at some points,
especially on movie-based video games. Then we had Ultimate Spider-Man. It's not on the same level as Spider-Man 2, but it's pretty good. And you can switch between Venom and Spider-Man, and they play differently. They aren't the same character, which I like. It's based on the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, so like this is not the same Peter Parker from the other things. This is the Peter Parker who would eventually be killed off and replaced by Miles Morales in the Ultimate Universe. So if you're cool with that, then it is what it is. Hello, Kenoshi.
Hey, what are you guys talking about now?
Well, we're talking about
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man games that people might want to play after they've watched No Way Home. This is a list from Polygon. I don't agree with all the games on here. I think Ultimate Spider-Man kind of sucks, but a lot of people like it. No, Ultimate Spider-Man's not terrible, but it's not great either. I thought Web of Shadows was better in terms of concept. Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. This was the Treyarch made. The Beanox made Spider-Man game. And some people like it. I'm not a big fan of it, but some people like it. And then we get to Marvel, the two Sony Spider-Man games that people love. Like I said, I'm not really.
If you want them,
I mean, how can I put this? The game, like both of these games, are basically taking a template that was created in Spider-Man 2 and just making it bigger and prettier. It doesn't really change the formula, which just tells me that Spider-Man 2 got the formula down perfect, and now no one's really upped the ante. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could agree on.
Give me a Spider-Man game where Spider-Man is in a new city, because I'm tired of New York. Like, put Spider-Man in DC or LA or Paris. You know, do something different with the character.
I would say it has Spider-Man been other places, because that could actually work.
He has.
And in several movies, they have done it before.
He has been in other places. I mean, Spider-Man is really most useful in an urban environment where he can use his webs, but he's been in other places. So stop, like, I'm tired of New York City. But, you know, it is what it is. Yeah. Also, I don't really like Miles Morales as a character. Yeah, I said it. People going to be like, don't you like Black Spider-Man?
I was gonna say Miles Morales is not bad, but he's not that big.
No, it's
At
just
least
No, go
I
ahead.
was saying as far as character wise, Miles is not that big of a deal, at least to me.
I mean, I know the character very well. It's just because I remember when they introduced him. I understand the history behind the character because I'm a Spider-Man fan. But I don't give a fuck about Miles Morales like I do about Peter Parker. But like I said, Peter Parker's been around since like for 60, almost 70 years. Like, it's gonna be harder for me to warm up to a new character. Hey, I'm the new guy. I'm replacing someone who's been here 60 some odd years. Hey, I don't know
Get
you.
in line.
Who the fuck are you? I'm Black Puerto Rican Spider-Man. Okay, like, am I supposed to give a fuck about you because you're Black and Puerto Rican? You know, that's like saying I need to support this business because it's owned by a Black Puerto Rican guy. Yeah, but these prices suck. Why aren't you supporting it? It's like, because the prices suck.
The food is
Exactly.
terrible.
Now, food might be good, but I mean, you know, why should I spend an exorbitant amount of money just because Black people own the business? I'm sorry. And I realize that there's other economic factors that vie into that, and, you know, socioeconomic stuff. Like Black businesses don't have the same level types of resources to subsidize their business like some other businesses do. But I mean, I'm not going to support something just because people of color are in it. I'm sorry. Like, you know, because that's how they trick you. A lot of these companies, you know, we're having support minority business day. You find out that most of the minority businesses is a front for some other shit.
I was gonna say that I expect that from the big businesses, where they mostly just say, "Look, we support this group, so come by our store and buy something."
I'm just saying, it just seems kind of weird to me. But anyway, we're on to the end of the cast. Any free topics you guys want to bring up before we wrap things up? There's no well, I mean, we could do unpopular opinion if you guys want. But yeah. Anything you guys want to bring up before we get to unpopular opinion and wrap things up?
I honestly don't think so.
All right, Kenoshi?
No.
All right. Okay, I already kind of shared a little bit of my unpopular opinion, but I'll expand upon it. My unpopular opinion is this. I think Miles Morales is overrated, and I don't really like him as a character. I think they should have. I think Marvel fucked up. The comic books fucked up when they got rid of the Ultimate line and combined the Ultimate universe with the mainline universe of Spider-Man of Marvel Comics. Because it was interesting when you had like these what if scenarios in the Ultimate universe. Like, what if the Hulk was a mass murdering piece of shit? Because Ultimate Hulk is way more hardcore than
MCU Hulk.
Yeah, MCU Hulk, like mainline comic book Hulk. Like you know how anger makes the Hulk makes Banner transform in the normal comics, like most of the time. Ultimate Hulk, any heightened emotion. So if he gets horny for Betty, he'll transform into the Hulk.
Thank you for putting that into my mind.
Yeah. He friggin' eats a villain. Like, literally, he cannibalizes a villain, and Ultimate Hulk does. Ultimate Hulk is the Hulk who ripped Ultimate Wolverine in half. So all you Wolverine fanboys talking shit about how badass Wolverine is, Ultimate Hulk begs to differ. Okay.
I was gonna say, I thought Ultimate Hulk treated him like a twig.
No, he, I mean, you know, Ultimate Wolverine has the adamantium skeleton and everything, but, I mean, adamantium doesn't mean anything to a being who just the angrier they get, the stronger they get. Because adamantium, no matter how powerful it is, I mean, it's a very thin coating on Wolverine's bones. It's not like it's like inches thick. So, you know, the Hulk gets strong enough, he can just rip him in half, which he did. He ripped Wolverine in half in the Himalayas and flung one half of his body, of his torso, of his lower body in one direction, and flung the other half in the other direction. And Wolverine had to crawl to his body and find a way to have enough warmth, because cold cancels out his regeneration factor. He had to find a way to get warm enough to get his body to attach to itself and start healing. So, all you Wolverine fans who think Wolverine can go up against the Hulk, please stop.
Yeah. And if anything, I can already imagine how painful it must have been to go on that kind of journey.
I don't know, but it was an interesting run. Ultimate Captain America kind of was still Captain America. Ultimate Thor kind of sucked. But anyway, so yeah, they killed off Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Peter Parker dies, and the mantle got passed on to Miles Morales. And then when they canceled the Ultimate line, they brought Miles Morales over to the Marvel mainline comic books. And I'm not impressed with the character. I'm not. I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I love Miles Morales because he's Puerto Rican. I don't really give a shit. He hasn't done. His villains aren't as interesting.
He hasn't earned it.
Well, he doesn't have the history. Really, it just boils down to the history. He doesn't have the history, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard to give a shit about a character who doesn't have 60 some odd years of history behind him. For me, as a comic book fan, like, it's like, you should care about. It's like when they tried to replace Superman. It's like, yeah, we're going to replace Superman with this new character. It's like, I don't really give a shit. But that's my unpopular opinion. I don't really care about Miles Morales. I was one of the people that didn't really give a shit about Into the Spider-Verse. I still don't give a shit about Into the Spider-Verse, mostly because I don't really give a shit about Miles Morales. And I don't want anyone trying to guilt me into liking Miles Morales because he's a person of color. I don't fucking care. He's uninteresting to me. Like, I dare anyone to name 5 of his top villains.
You'd be lucky to find at least 3.
You can't. You want to know why? Because he's not interesting. I can name 5 of Spider-Man's villains.
I was saying, I'd be surprised if you can name 3. Though, if anything, I could bet you I can name 3 on the spot right now, which would be Green Goblin, Kingpin, and Venom.
Yeah, Green Goblin, Kingpin, Venom, Hobgoblin, the Lizard, Scorpion,
Vulture.
the Rhino, Hammerhead, Silvermane, the Vulture, Electro, Shocker, the Chameleon. Yeah. I can't name one. And here's the thing, I read the comics. And I'm just not interested in I'm just not interested in Miles Morales. And I don't think it's because of the character. I think the writers haven't really done a good job of making him into a distinct character, aside from the fact that he's Puerto Rican and black. And I just find that it's a shame because they could have made an interesting character, but they didn't. So, don't care. Anyway, that's my unpopular opinion. Anything you guys want to pimp at before we wrap things up for our penultimate episode?
I was going to say that my unpopular opinion would be basically that the holidays usually are good times, but it makes me wonder who the F is saying that the holidays are in danger of
Oh, you
vanishing.
mean the war on Christmas?
Yeah, whoever says that, they need to be put in the garbage bin.
Well, I mean, I don't know about any war on Christmas, but I mean, I like the holidays because I like the vacation time, and the food and hanging out with relatives and just not having to worry about shit, which is great. That's about it. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a war on Christmas. Um, Aside from those fucking companies that make people work on the holidays, so those bastards. Um, anyway, that's the end of the cast. Peace. Good night. All the contact information is in the description of the video, so you can watch it when you get a chance. And peace.
Peace.
Happy holidays.